Hello, welcome back to the Reads of an Apple. Happy April. It is April 1st. I don't know why I had to think about that. And I am here to do my wrap up for the month of March. And I was a little bit slumpy and didn't read as much as I normally do. And so I'll grab my little stats here. Cheese is going to help out. She's sitting right here. Okay. So I only read 10 books in the month of March, and we'll just go ahead and go through them real quick. I'll go over my stats, and then I'll talk about the 10 books that I read. So, like I said, I read 10 books for a total of 3,065 pages. That averaged out to about a day and a half per book. The average page count between them was 306.5 pages. I read one book that was less than 100 pages. It was actually 5, so it was really, really tiny. 1 in the 200s and then 8 in the 300s. 2 of the books I picked up for book clubs. 5 of them had diversity of some type. I read 2 new authors, and I reread 1 book. 3 of the books I owned in paperback, and then I added 6 of them to my wish list for physical copies. I read 2 in paperback, 7 in ebook format, and then 1 in audiobook. I read 2 traditionally published, and then 8 indie published. 1 was published in the 2000s, 7 in the 2010s, and 2 in the 2020s. My average rating was 4.5 stars. And that came out to 6 5-stars, 1 4.5 star, 1 4-star, 1 3.5 star, and 1 3-star. The genres I read were 5 contemporaries, 2 historical romance, 1 paranormal romance, and 2 urban fantasies. And then of my contemporaries, 4 of them were just straight contemporaries, normal contemporaries, and then 1 was a small town. That's it for stats. I know I read through that really quickly, but so it is. If you want to take a look at my stats, I always do a wrap up on my blog post. For March, it's set to go up next Tuesday, so April 5th. That'll go up on my blog, which is always linked in my link tree in my in my About Me page thing. So we will go over the 10 books that I read. I will try not to ramble on too much about them. Almost all of them I did in my reading vlogs. So if you want to see more about them, you can check them there or check out the reviews that I post. My blog is mainly for reviews. And I review every book that I read. So just throwing that out there because I don't read as much that I can only do reviews on like 5 stars or something like that. I try to review every book I read. Okay. The first book I read was The Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mate by Kate C. Wells. I gave this book 5 stars. This is book 1 in her 5-pack series. I loved it. It was so good. It's probably my favorite book of the month. If I don't count my reread, this is my favorite book of the month. It was just so good, and it was a little bit more of a grittier paranormal, which I've kind of moved away from, but it was just so unique, and the rejected trope was new to me. Like, I knew of it, but I hadn't really read a full-length novel that featured the rejected mate trope, and it was superb. I loved it. I'm very excited. The next book comes out later this month, I want to say the 22nd, and I cannot wait to pick it up. And then I went on a little binge of Rachel Higginson. I read her Opposites Attract series, and I read all 4 of them. So book 1 is The Opposite of You by Rachel Higginson. I gave this one 5 stars. I picked this one up because I needed a foodie romance for Love Has Sprung, which is a reading challenge hosted by Shelby Taggart Reads on Instagram. And this book was on my TBR already because Smart Women Read Romance did a podcast episode on this book fairly early on. I want to say it was in like the first 20 episodes, and it's been on my TBR since, and I finally picked it up and I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars and it was really good. And then I immediately picked up the second book because I was really intrigued about the couple in the second book. And the book 2 is The Difference Between Us. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it as well. My only really big detraction from it compared to the other books in the series was that the main female character, Molly, she is dealing with harassment at work. And I just wish that either we got to see like the comeuppance against him instead of it being like a 2-3 line sentence in the epilogue. And then I also wish that even though it was a situation with the CEO's son and if HR didn't want to do anything and that was part of the tension there, that's fine. But I at least wished that more of her coworkers would have stepped up to help protect each other, male or female, because it wasn't just her that he was harassing. So that was the only thing, is I just wish that I didn't like how just utterly hopeless it felt. And I get that that's kind of the point, but this is a book. I do need a little bit of that. I don't need it to be overly realistic, but I still really enjoyed it. 4.5 stars. Then I picked up book 3, which is The Problem with Him. And so this book is all kind of set around 3 restaurants that are owned by Ezra. He's the hero in book 2. In book 1, the hero Killian is the chef at one of his restaurants, and his romances with Vera, who moves back to town. It's her hometown. Her father and brother live there, and she sets up a food truck in her brother's bicycle shop's parking lot, and then it's her romance with the chef across the street, which is Killian. So then book 2 is Molly and Ezra. So Ezra owns 4 restaurants in town, and Molly is Vera's best friend. So then book 3, The Difference Between Us. This is for the new head chef at Lilu, which is the main restaurant in the first book. And it's the new executive chef and his sous chef. And I gave this 5 stars. It's probably it's my favorite in the series for sure. I loved it. It's Wyatt and Kira. I think it's Kira. And it was just so good because it seems like it's enemies to lovers because they're always bickering with each other. But secretly, it's just they're bickering to hide their feelings and their attraction to each other. And we find out that just Wyatt has just since he met Kira, he's just been waiting for her to be single and him to be single to make his move. And he has finally made his move. And I loved that when it comes out that Kira wants to be the executive chef at one of Ezra's other restaurants, because he owns 4, but 3 are kind of the focus of the series. And it's the third one, the one that starts with an S. She wants to be executive chef there because just that restaurant vibe fits how she wants to cook and how she wants to do things a little bit better. He doesn't begrudge her at all. He's more than willing to help her and support her in whatever she needs, even though it means that he won't be seeing her every day at work. And he's just this is what's best for you and your career. I'm not going to begrudge you leaving me in the lurch because I'll have to find a new sous chef, kind of a thing. And it was just perfect. I loved it. And then I picked up the 4th and final book in the series, The Something About Her. And this is Dylan, who's Ezra's younger sister. And she becomes the executive chef at his other restaurant, Bianca. And Van, who is Vera's brother from the first book. And I gave this book 5 stars. I really loved it. I struggled with it a little bit in the beginning because I wasn't a big fan of how Van was treating Vera, and I was really connecting with Vera on or not Vera, Dylan is her name, with her on an emotional level, and I kind of struggled a little bit because I was just like, these people are treating her like crap, and she is my girl, and I just really connected with her. But the way that it all just evolved and how they naturally came together, Van won me over in the end, and I just loved how it all ended up working out, and I loved the message that Rachel was putting in all of them, really. I do want to say, I think all of these books do have, maybe not the third book, but I know at least the first book and the second book and the fourth book all do have trigger warnings. They're in my reviews, but overall they're just about abusive relationships. Obviously the sexual harassment from book 2. This one deals with rape in the past and dealing with those emotions. And I loved them. They were really, really good. And then when I finished book 4, there was a note in the back that said that there is a spin-off series, because in it we meet in the series we meet Killian's friend Will, who owns like a craft bar. It's not a full-on restaurant, but I think they do serve food, but it's mostly like a bar place, and it's all craft bar or craft beer. And so there is a spin-off series called Decisions in Durham, I think, because it's set in Durham. And I need to pick it up because the first book is Will's book. And then book 2 comes out in a couple of months. Hi, can I help you? But yeah, so I really like that, and I can't wait to pick up the spin-off series. And so then I needed to pick up The Proposal by Mary Balog. This is the first book in her Survivors Club series. I read this for Rake Appreciation Society. It's hosted by Jen from the Book Refuge and Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. And I gave this book 3.5 stars. I own the physical copy with the pretty step back. But I actually switched because I got about 70 pages in. And it was the night before book club, and I didn't want to read it. So I checked my Hoopla. My library had it in audiobook, so I binged the rest of the audiobook at work the next day and was able to finish it just in time. I ended up finishing it on the drive home from work, and 3.5 stars. I struggled connecting with both of the main characters. And because I wasn't really connected with the main characters in this, and it's mostly like character-driven book, because I wasn't completely connected with them, it was a struggle for me, and I got bored at times. There were in the beginning when I switched to the audiobook, it was about the 70-page mark. There was some good humor that I really enjoyed, and because I remember like laughing out loud, and my boss was like, "Oh, what are you laughing at now?" And I feel like it went away fairly quickly, or it wasn't. I don't know if there was more humor to keep me a little bit more connected. I just struggled connecting with them. So 3.5 stars. I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than the other Mary Balog I've read, and I'm definitely interested in reading the rest of this series and her Bedouin saga, because I know a lot of people love those. So that was book 6. So then after I kind of struggled with that, I picked up the new release from Elsie Silver, False Start. This is book 4 in her Gold Rush Ranch series, the final book in this series. 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I do have to say it's probably my least favorite in the series if I don't count the prequel or the novella. That'd probably be technically last, but of the 4 full-length books, this is probably my least favorite, but I still absolutely loved it. 5 stars. Nadia Griffin. Griffin is a grumpy recluse. It's a 14-year age gap. If you haven't read Elsie Silver, you need to read Elsie Silver. It's small town romance. Most of them I would also say are sports romance because of equestrian sports. And while we don't get as much of the horses here, Nadia is training to become a vet, and she wants to open like a racehorse rescue for when they get too old to race anymore. And then Griffin is a retired American football player, and he was forced to retire because of a bad concussion that happened while he was playing. So there's discussions of mental health and concussion issues. Nadia, as we've learned from the previous books, was abused by her father, and her mother was not in a good way. They were both alcoholics, and it's so good. Even though it's probably my least favorite in the series, I still really, really enjoyed it. Really good. 5 stars. Pick up Elsie Silver. Please, please, please. Then I picked up the Smart Women Read Romance Patreon exclusive review book, and the theme the theme for March was urban fantasy, and Burn by Suzanne Wright won. This is the first book in her Dark in You Demon series, and I gave this 3 stars. The demon mythos was intriguing, and I liked Harper, our main character, but my biggest issue was Knox, the hero. I did not connect with him. I didn't really see the appeal of him. And I hated the way that he treated Harper. I feel like Harper she didn't really change, but she grew and adapted to becoming Knox's anchor and eventually mate. And I feel like Knox didn't change or adapt any of his ways to meet Harper in the middle. It was all her doing the changing. And there was a lot of sex scenes, but they didn't feel steamy to me. It just felt like banging and not in the good way. So 3 stars. I am interested in picking up Suzanne Wright's, I think it's the Phoenix Pack Werewolf Shifter series, but this one didn't work for me. And then after that, Bridgerton Season 2 came out, and you will see next weekend, I'm releasing my vlog and mini wrap-up. But I picked up The Viscount Who Loved Me because I am one of the people that was disappointed overall with the series, or with the season, I guess. And I needed my Anthony and Kate. So I picked up The Viscount Who Loved Me. This is my reread of the month. I read this version. I have the 2 hardback versions, the Once Upon a Time one and the new hardback edition that came out recently that was a Target exclusive. I also have the step back version, but I read this version because I wanted one that I felt comfortable reading, that I wouldn't ruin. And I bought this before I got the hardback ones. But anyway, 5 stars. I don't really have much else to say except for this Kate and Anthony I absolutely adore. It's my favorite Bridgerton book, and I love it. And the sun is starting to go down, so we will quickly run through. Oh, there's only one more book left. So the last book I read, which I read yesterday on the 31st, wasn't really a full book. It was a short story, and it was the prequel novella to the Aurelia Rider series, it's The King of Fire. It's written by Alona Andrews. I gave this 4 stars. It made me super hyped to pick up Blood Heir, which is book 1 in Aurelia Rider, and I cannot wait to pick this up. This is going to be my first read of April, but anyway. So this is the picture that they have on their website. I absolutely loved it. We get a kind of a little sneak peek or lead up, I think, to what's going to happen in Blood Heir. So we kind of get to a little bit of a check-in, and it was great. I absolutely loved it. I'm ready to get back into Alona Andrews, and I gave it 4 stars, mostly because I just wanted more. I wanted more information of what's happened during the time jump from Kate Daniels, and I just wished it was a little bit longer. we got to see more of Era, because we see a little bit of Era. We get to see a little bit of Conlon, and we get to see a little bit of Roland, and it's all from Julie's POV. But yeah, I loved it. I cannot wait for more. So that's the 10 books I read in the month of March. I don't really do full-on TBRs, but I do have quite a few books this month that I'm going to be picking up. Like I just mentioned, the first book I will be picking up is Blood Heir for Alona Andrews, or by Alona Andrews. This is for what used to be the Kate Daniels read-along, and now is the Aurelia Rider read-along, and that is hosted by Steph from Novelty Corner, Heather from Hia Booktube, and Megan from Meowth Vader. We did the Kate Daniels read-along, and I believe after we read this, we're going to be moving to Hidden Fantasy, so I feel like it's just going to be an Alona Andrews backlist read-along, but that's what I got there. This will be what I pick up tonight, because I am excited. And let me pick up my to-do list. I've mentioned it before, but since I don't have a lot of TBRs, and I don't do a normal TBR like a lot of people do, I use the Google Task List app, I guess, to kind of keep track of what I need to read, and then that way it sends me notifications, or it's on my calendar, Google Calendar, that I sync to my phone. And so I've already read The King of Fire. And then I have The Blood Heir. And then Jen from the Book Refuge, which I've mentioned before, she also hosts Rake Appreciation Society. This month she's starting the SJM read-along, which is Sarah J. Maas. And I have never read Sarah J. Maas, so I'm excited for this. And it's going to be her whole, I almost said discography, but she is not a music person. Backlist. We'll just go with backlist. And so for the month of April, we've got it's the Throne of Glass first. I believe we're doing this in publication order. And so we've got Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and then we have the first two novellas. So The Assassin and the Pirate Lord, and The Assassin and the Healer. So I'll also be picking up those this month. And then I have the Rake Appreciation Society book for the month will be Topaz by Beverly Jenkins. And then the Smart Women Read Romance Patreon exclusive review will be Hard Hitter by Serena Bowen. I know this is book 2 in her adult hockey series, and I know that they are standalones. I asked during the last live show if we needed to read book 1, and they were like, no, they're all standalones. But it's a hockey romance, and we're wrapping up. I'm an Avs fan. We're wrapping up. I think there's only 14 games left. I don't know. It's 15 or less games. And so there's just a couple weeks left before we hit playoffs. So it's a good time for hockey romance. So I'll probably read book 1 and then book 2. And I think it's also a spinoff for her college hockey. But I'm not 100% sure. I feel like a lot of her books are connected, but I haven't read Serena Bowen. I know she's a very popular author. I know Smart Women Read Romance has done several of her books on their podcast. So I'm excited to finally pick her up, because I do have this hockey series and a couple of her other hockey books on my TBR. I just haven't gotten to them. So that's for sure what I'm going to be reading next month. There's a couple other book clubs I keep track of, but I don't always read them. Rake Appreciation and the Smart Women Read Romance ones are ones that I always do, though, because I guess those are the people I'm more connected with. But yeah, I'm super excited to pick those up. There are a couple other books that I would like to pick up. I can show you those. They're sitting here on the edge of my headboard. I've got I need to read Rewriting the Stars by Claire Kingsley. This is the 6th book in the Bailey Brothers, 6th and final. I keep meaning to pick this up, but this is a thick book. This is a beast, and I was slumpy and I wasn't feeling it. I need to pick this up. I also recently finally got the paperback copy of Eva Leigh's new The Good Girl's Guide to Rakes. This is the first in her Last Chance Scoundrels series. I've heard great things about it. I want to pick this one up soon. I'm excited for it. And then I need to read... I want to read more in the Trap trilogy by Tracy Ann Warren. Book 2 is The Wife Trap. Book 3 is The Wedding Trap. But these have been on my headboard for a couple months now, so I don't know if I'll get to them. But those are the 4 books I have on my headboard to get to hopefully soon. So we'll see what I end up reading. But like I mentioned, all of the ones I listed before are for book clubs and read-alongs. I definitely will be getting to. But I feel like my reading will kind of start picking up because things are going to start getting really stressful and crazy busy at work. So I'm just going to want that escape to just come home and not do anything but read. And as hockey wraps up, I won't be dedicating several hours multiple times a week to just watching hockey. So there's that. I'll let you go for now. Feel free to comment below. Let me know what you're excited to read in April and if you're joining any of the read-alongs or book clubs as well. And until then, I will see you all soon. Bye.